Nvidia stock continues to dominate today as we see a new price target appears and more bullish sentiment towards the future of AI. So, in today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at the recent news impacting this top AI semiconductor stock and this new price target of $800. Welcome. For those not familiar, my name's Jose Najarro, and I spent way too much time reading about semiconductors and AI. But thanks to that, my master's in electrical engineering and my experience working at various innovative companies, I believe I have created the number one semiconductor podcast for investors. So let's get started with today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so we can see as I am recording, Nvidia is doing amazing, sitting at $689, about to break that 690, up roughly 4.2%. So there are a few things impacting the overall stock today, and I just want to showcase the overall bullish sentiment that we continue to see with this company. And later on, I also want to take a closer look at current valuations. But the most important thing is we did see Goldman Sachs analysts raise their price target for Nvidia to $800, right? That's still about $110 from the current price right now. The company also lifted the full year 2025 to 2026 earning estimates for Nvidia by 22% on average, citing a robust AI server demand and improving graphics processing unit supply. And if you have been following this channel, you might have been ahead of the curve over this analyst, right? Because in the past few weeks, or in the past week, we've actually heard big tech companies talk about their capital expenditure. And I already did plenty of videos on that. But overall, the sentiment is companies are going to continue to invest and increase their overall capex in 2024 versus 2023, thanks to investments of AI. The other thing we have heard from a lot of players that, hey, the supply chain issue for GPUs are improving, but there's still way more demand than there is supply. So pretty much just what this Goldman Sachs analyst mentioned. And like I mentioned, if you have been following this channel, this is something that we have heard about plenty of times last week. One of the things that I do want to say is AMD recently reported earnings, and they did increase their overall estimates of their MI300 GPU, which is the data center GPU that's expected to combat against Nvidia's H100. And they did mention, based on the strong customer pool and expanded engagement, they now expect data center GPU revenue to grow sequentially in the first quarter and exceed $3.5 billion in 2024. They have also made significant progress with their supply chain partners and have secured additional capacity to support upside demand. So $3.5 billion in 2024 is great news for AMD, especially since last quarter they expected at least $2 billion. So that was a nice 75% gain. But if we take a closer look at Nvidia, right, assuming the market does not grow anymore, and quarter three was the peak, and I do not believe quarter three is the peak from the talks we have heard about. I do believe we are going to continue to see data center growth at least for the next, if I was to guess, definitely quarter four, definitely quarter one, definitely quarter two, and quarter three. Sequential growth is what I'm talking about. Even if it flatlines from there, I do believe we're going to continue to see, as then we see the next generation. But assuming right now this was the peak at $14.5 billion in data center, that means for the full year, it would roughly be $58 billion, assuming no more growth. That's only 6% of the overall market. That means Nvidia will still have roughly 94% of the market. And like I mentioned, we've heard from everybody else that, hey, this demand is expected to continue to grow at least in 2024, where we're going to still have a more supply constraint issue that will not be able to meet the needs and the demand that we're seeing right now. So overall, if AMD is only expected to do somewhere between 3.5 billion, we expect Nvidia to continue to dominate. So that alone is a big bullish case, especially since I mentioned earlier on that all these big tech companies have increased their overall capital expenditure. So again, I do believe data center revenue is expected to grow for many, many quarters now. Now, there are some other things that we have discussed, and we actually got some brand new updates today, and that is Sovereign AI, where one of the big customers for NVIDIA right now is individual countries. And before we take a closer look at this, guys, I just want to say thank you guys for the support. Make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button if you haven't done so. And if you want to check out and support the channel, make sure to check out fool.com/Jose for my special offer. That's another great way to support this channel. So, in a recent blog report we saw on February 5th of 2024, which is actually today, Nvidia mentioned that in pivotal development that Canada has signed a letter of intent with Nvidia. And this letter of intent is to obviously invest in a nice amount of AI chips, AI infrastructures to overall help their nation grow in AI capabilities. And Canada is not the only company, right? We've heard from France, we've heard from India, we've heard from Japan, how all these countries and obviously the United States, right? How all these companies are discussing the importance of investing in sovereign AI capabilities. And this is something that we've really started to hear about on Friday when the CEO mentioned it during a Bloomberg television in Canada. But if you have been following this channel, we have talked about this since early December. It's already February, so it's something that we've been ahead of the curve here. And some people might be wondering, hey, Jose, how can nations use AI to improve their overall solutions? And how is it something that can be done right now? Well, obviously, in national and in ministry, just the amount of data that each country has in forms of data center, I mean, in forms of healthcare, of education, of expenses, of things like autonomous systems for maybe just your typical street light to other types of infrastructure solution, you can use AI to either reduce the cost or make things better. In cities, for example, you can do things like AI infrastructure to make smart cities and help improve just the flow of things. So there's a lot of things that can be done with AI within nations, and mainly is the amount of data that each nation has. Obviously, another example is just national security, right? The development of maybe military solutions to protect one country is definitely a big play. Another one is cybersecurity to some extent. So there's a lot and a lot of ways that countries are going to need AI to continue to develop their own solutions. Now, outside of this, we have also heard of NVIDIA kind of really pushing this kind of green computing. And this is another blog that came out here on February 5th, where a new study cites AI as a strategic tool to combat climate change. So, one of the things right now is data centers are spending tons and tons of money. And one of the big push outside of AI for NVIDIA is accelerated computing. And one instance of accelerated computing is using GPUs instead of CPUs for a lot of solutions. NVIDIA, for example, showcased that their weather prediction model, ForecastNet, is about 45,000 times faster and consumes 12,000 less energy to produce a forecast than current techniques. And obviously, things like this can overall help with things like electric bill and the amount of electricity needed for these overall data centers. So, NVIDIA is saying, hey, look, overall, data centers could be saving 19 terawatt hours of electricity a year if all AI, high performance computing, and network offloads were run on GPUs, all thanks to NVIDIA, and DPU accelerators instead of CPUs. So overall, this huge market and change of improving your electricity bill, which obviously can be seen as green computing, but that alone is a huge improvement in cost, in total cost of ownership as well, is another reason why companies are focusing on just escaping your typical CPU system and going to a fully accelerated system with GPU. So that's another kind of nice tailwind here for Nvidia. Now, there are some other great news impacting the overall stock. Today, on February 5th, we did hear that Foxconn's chairman said that there is going to be a significant shortage of AI chips impacting the server business. And Foxconn is a huge maker of servers. You might know Foxconn from kind of the manufacturing steps of the iPhone, but they also manufacture a lot and a lot of servers. They have one, I believe, the biggest market share in overall servers, not just AI servers, but in overall server manufacturing. And they do mention that, hey, look, even if capacity supply improves in the second half of this year, it's still not enough to meet demand. So more bullish sentiment here for Nvidia, and overall continuing to cite what we saw from those analysts and continue to follow what we've been covering in this channel. Now, what I think is pretty cool with Foxconn is expected to be a very huge partner for Nvidia. So they are one of the, I want to say, the biggest recipients. I don't know. You guys can correct me in the comments, like you guys always do, of Nvidia's AI chips. Right, they're the ones that are going to receive some of the biggest numbers of AI chips, as they are going to build large number of systems based on Nvidia GPUs, CPUs, and networking for its global customer base. And this is how NVIDIA and Foxconn are going to be building AI data factories. So this partnership with Foxconn is something we've heard since October 17th of 2023, but I wanted to bring it up because Foxconn, like I mentioned, is a huge partner of NVIDIA, a huge developer of some of the AI servers this company makes. So for them to be saying, hey, look, right now there's not enough AI chips, and they're one of the biggest recipients of their AI chips, like the H100, the upcoming Black B100, the Grace Hopper 200 super chips, and so on and so forth. I do believe what they say has more sticky power than some of the other players out there. The final thing I want to do before we end this episode is take a closer look at PE ratio. So Nvidia currently's PE ratio is sitting at 90.75. And obviously that looks pretty expensive, but once we expect this earnings, which is expected to be in about 2-3 weeks. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get all the great insight of earnings. PE ratio forward, which ends this upcoming quarter, will drop down to 33.81. If AI, and this is something that I've mentioned, if the AI market is as true as as what analysts expect, then these PE ratios are not that crazy. Now there's a lot of things that, what if the AI demand is weaker? What if margins start to decrease? What if competition starts to take market share? Then obviously it's added risk. But based on forward 1 year, so next fiscal year, so pretty much next 12 months, the PE ratios in the high 20s, 28.44. Again, nothing too crazy. While things look extremely bullish for Nvidia, I do want to say in the semiconductor market, we always tend to have some form of inventory corrections. Those inventory corrections do provide great buying opportunities as we start to see very big bearish claims across the board. So for me, right now, I personally do enjoy that dollar cost averaging on Nvidia because they are definitely the big winner here. But if I was to buy a big bulk on me based on my risk to reward ratio thought process, I think I would personally wait for those inventory corrections. But the real question is, when are we going to see that? Is it going to be this year in 2024? Is it not going to happen till 2025 or either 2026? So that's the big risk there. Overall, Nvidia is my number one position. I have no intentions of selling. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.